try not to freeze up.
Well, try not to say anything that would embarrass you, because I can edit stuff out, but it's kind of a hassle. So just try to censor yourself to some degree.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say something, but I thought, then I held back. It was probably not a good thing. But my thought is, being honest is gonna be much more beneficial in new times, considering all the technology, being able to run, like, if Google plays out, then every sort of video is going to have some sort of like dictation or annotation for it. So anything you say can and will be used against you. So if I'm going to run for office in the future, then probably the point should be is just to own up to mistakes, own up to what you say, and if you say something wrong, then I don't know, apologize for it and say that you learned from it and that you're a better person afterwards. That's the reality. Expecting someone to be perfect and then expecting our politicians to be perfect is an outright lie.
Yeah, expecting it 24/7. Whenever everything that they can be said can be out on camera or microphone or something like that.
Yeah, I think the politicians, because they generally tend to be an older set of people and they don't understand the internet. I mean, the vast majority of them don't understand the internet to any relation to us. That's why you get stuff like Mitt Romney getting caught at that one campaign fundraiser saying, well, 47% of Americans, are not going to vote for me, so I'm not going to pay attention to them, and then, it comes back to blow up in his face. So I don't know, taking advantage of it, owning up to what you say on the internet and what's going to be on there for.
Well, what was he talking? He was talking about like mostly poor people and like.
He was just right? He was going to say that poor people weren't going to vote for him, so he wasn't really after their votes. He's trying to go after the 53% that were going to vote for him, which I'm not sure where those statistics are coming from, but it seems like there's a lot more poor people than there are rich people. So I feel like that's skewed a little bit, at least for his purposes.
Well, I mean, he's probably counting also, middle or lower class, less educated white people and stuff like that who are maybe predominantly Republican.
Yeah, died in the wool Republicans, despite the fact that their policies may hurt or.
Yeah, probably not as beneficial to them as it is to the richer people and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like the people who are on welfare are some of the most vocal people against welfare, and it's just like, or farmers getting subsidies, and they're just like, well, all these people are, we're being taxed and all this stuff, but our taxes are going towards those subsidies so that you don't have to plant as much corn, or that you plant more corn than necessary.
Yeah.
Anyways.
What were you saying before we interrupted? You were asking us about whether we were libertarians or not.
Oh, yeah. How do you guys frame yourselves? Because I'm coming across the thing to where I'm reading Ron Paul. What am I reading? Ron Paul's Liberty Defined, and I know that Ron Paul has been the general face of libertarianism, but some of the stuff I can't agree with. Some of the stuff I think, and I've been reading, listening, watching different things, and I can't sign on fully to the libertarian ideal just because I do think that some regulation is necessary as far as some consumer protections and environmental protection, because I feel like those are the first things that are going to get railroaded if the free market has its way, because it doesn't take those factors into account. The consumer protections maybe, but when it's after the fact and you find out that your baby bottles have lead poisoning or something, or lead in them or something like that, coming back after the fact and just being like, well, now you can sue them, that's not really like a justified means of preventing catastrophic behavior.
Well, I mean, one of the reasons why I said, like when I was younger I considered myself libertarian, I don't really anymore, is kind of the same thing. Like, libertarianism is certainly nice, I think, in like if everything was perfect and people were all good-hearted and, kind of thing. But I think as you kind of look at the system and see how much business and government are intertwined and how it's not, there's not really even a free market, I would say, under the system that we have now. And there are people who would obviously hold, profit over kind of like you said, maybe
ethics.
Yeah, ethics. It's something that kind of makes libertarianism something that, at least under a current system, I don't think you can. I don't think you could have a libertarian government and under the way our society, at least American society, works right now, and it actually be successful or worth living under.
Well, the thing is that it's asking the system to work retroactively, so to tear down all the things that people have invested their time in, and not that many people are going to do that. I have a buddy who he is in the military. He is a very, I get a lot of stuff on my Facebook feed from this guy about libertarianism and anti-government, and, like, the promotion of anarchy, which isn't necessarily a bad idea depending on how you frame it. But the idea of someone having to go in there and doing all that demolition work to everything that we've done so far, you're not going to have a lot of people sign up for that. And the only way that that's really going to work is if we're somehow catapulted back to some basic situation to where, I don't know, we start getting hurricanes pretty regularly, society starts to break down, and then we have to say, well, that stuff was good or okay what we did beforehand, but it's causing some problems. Let's come back and let's rebuild it in a positive fashion. I think the demolition to what we've built so far is going to be the toughest part.
Yeah, and even not just like demolition to, say, infrastructure or something like that, even demolition to how society works, especially, you have some very rich people who maybe run very powerful corporations. The way things are working now is probably pretty fantastic for them, and they have the capability to have a strong hand in politics based on where they give their money to. Mm-hmm. That all of a sudden expect them to kind of be like, never mind, let's try it differently whenever it works so well for them.
There's no incentive.
Yeah, there's none at all.
And they have the potential to create dynasties, which are very common in politics these days. If you're already in it and you're already rubbing elbows, and they know, if you have a kid, you're gonna probably try to do your best to cut them some breaks. So I have a feeling that the political landscape is going to be very incestuous, which is why you're hearing like Hillary for 2016. I mean,
yeah.
But there could be
why you have George Bush and then his son, and now maybe Jeb Bush being possible leaders of the country. It's so easy for them to once they've gotten one of their family members have gotten their foot in the door, for them to be able to do the same.
How do y'all feel about Elizabeth Warren? Because some people have been saying that she could replace Hillary Clinton. That Hillary Clinton has not been very vocal and been very quiet, and Elizabeth Warren has been coming up with some really, really wild stuff.
That's not the case if you've heard anything out of Hillary Clinton in the last week. She released a book and she's been going on tours left and right. So.
Oh, really? Okay, so now she's starting to get pretty active. I haven't heard much, but I live under a proverbial rock.
I think I like. I'll put it this way. I think I like a lot of the stuff Elizabeth Warren says more than what Hillary Clinton says, but I kind of don't really know. Elizabeth Warren hasn't really actually accomplished anything yet.
Well, because her bill for the student loans.
Yeah.
Recently, that got shot down in the House.
Yeah. And again, I mean, I guess that that's not necessarily her fault, but it's kind of hard to also say she's going to make a great president if she hasn't really actually accomplished anything yet. So, she says a lot of nice stuff, and obviously, if it was something where she could just snap her fingers to make it possible, she might be an appealing candidate. But it's one of those things. She might, given time, be a politician that might be somebody who I could support, but I mean, there's nothing yet that really makes me hate her, but there's nothing yet that really makes me like her either. So
yeah, I mean, she talks a good game, but I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen her produce anything, and I don't want her. I don't want her to be president if the only way she's going to get stuff accomplished is through executive orders and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and which is now becoming more. I mean, there's always been executive orders, but it just becomes this big precedent because Congress has been such a I don't know. It's just been a big mud pile. I mean, you can't get through it.
Yeah, nothing. Congress doesn't do anything. So.
Well, and they let Obama get away with doing stuff that he shouldn't be able to unilaterally do.
It was the precedent set by the George Bush administration, I think, because of just the wartime attitude and behavior. Because they had that for 8 years, and now leading into Obama with the recession, he's now in his second term. I think that there's been a 16-year period to where all the congressmen have been in there, just been receiving a bunch of executive orders, and they don't want to rock the boat or else become unpatriotic because they're not fighting a war, unpatriotic because they're not helping out a recession, which, probably should have let some people fail during that recession just to let the economy reset, and to self-correct itself.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's redundant.
Yeah, and plus, you're getting to the point, obviously I'm a young person, so I can't really, from a personal standpoint, go back far in history and know how different this is, but you obviously have a country right now that is very heavily divided between Republicans and Democrats, to the point that you can have an executive whatever party he is from, he's going to have about half of Congress supporting anything that he says or does. Obama's going to have the support of almost any Democrat in whatever sort of executive stuff he does, just like George Bush had, the support of so much of the Republican Congress. And the Republican people, Republican citizens in general in our country for a lot of the stuff that he did, whether it was good or bad.
Yeah, and I'm not going to, I totally agree with you that this was stuff that was started with George Bush. It was stuff that was started before George Bush. It's just gotten worse and worse, and the only reason I attack Obama is because he's the current sitting president, and he is continuing to expand on a lot of the stuff that George Bush did. I appreciate the fact that Obama is willing to use some restraint and stuff like Syria, where John Kerry is gung-ho to start a war in Syria or Iraq, and at least Obama's kind of well, no, we're not gonna do that.
That was a I don't want to say graceful, I want to call it that was a graceless way of trying to put the power back with the Congress, because I don't think that he wanted to do it. I think that he wanted to provide the general threat, but I think he did a good thing by pushing it back at Congress, because that's going to set, even if it's a small, slim precedent, it's still going to set a precedent to where you need to talk to Congress before going to war or engaging in military action when we have not been physically, or not physically, but we haven't been threatened. So I think that's a good thing. Did he do it very tactfully? Did it come off very strong? No, but I see the outcome as being a positive thing, of course, rather than a negative thing.
Well, yeah, and part of it is that this was all backpedaling after there was a huge populist movement against military intervention. So
yeah, I wrote to
again, glad that when there's a huge swath of the population that is against military intervention and war, I'm glad that most of our politicians are willing to see that and be like, okay, we're not going to have military action.
Yeah, I sent off a letter to Ted Cruz, which is the first time I've ever sent anything to a congressman, let alone, if I had a choice, I probably wouldn't send it to Ted Cruz. Yeah. I think that dude's, I'm sure he does some good work. I don't think people are inherently evil. I think everyone thinks that they're a good person and they fight the battles that they can fight, whether or not but I have met delusional people before, and I have met groups of delusional people before, i.e. snake handlers, but he did come out as saying that he was not down for the Syrian war, and I think that he was an opponent to the idea of us engaging in it further. So,
yeah, the way that I view Ted Cruz so far is as kind of an opportunist. So, he's useful at times, but I don't know that it's hard to tell whether he actually stands for anything or just takes advantage.
Well, sorry, getting
I
into
was
the
going to say
podcast
takes
thing.
advantage of situations.
Mm-hmm. I think opportunity is probably just the inherent within politics. I mean, have you guys watched, and not to sidetrack, but have you guys watched House of Cards, I'm assuming?
I just finished the second season last night.
Oh, yeah, I like the very end. That's awesome. But as you can tell, like, things come up, and, opportunities would arise in that scenario for you, for advancement, for just talking points, and sometimes you got to lay low, and sometimes you got to get out there, and sometimes you do have to stick your neck on the line. But I would expect nothing less out of anyone in politics nationally. So.
Yeah, there's just a point where you can be too much of an opportunist. Like I would like my politicians to actually have morals and like ideals that they actually stand for, as opposed to just taking advantage of every single situation that comes up.
Mm-hmm.
I think that kind of what Justin was saying, probably more likely to find that on the level than you are. Because in order to get up to the national, I guess, level, you're probably going to have to do at least a little bit of compromising your ethics.
Compromising is not the same thing as opportunism.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it could be an opportunity that you're taking to compromise your ethics.
Mm-hmm. Going back to Elizabeth Warren, with different things, so from what I understand about her, she was a law professor at Harvard or finance professor at Harvard. Do y'all know?
I don't know offhand. I can look it up here.
Oh yeah,
and I don't know. Haven't looked into her that much.
Oh yeah. Something that with her recent bill that got shot down, I think that not everyone needs to go to college, and maybe it's not the best for everyone to do that. Because and a lot of the things that there's a lot of things in accreditations that you can do now that you don't need to go to college. MIT has open courses, and they have certificate programs to where it can say that, yeah, you completed these things, which I think if you're doing anything in the tech field, tech sector, there might be ways for you to get around having to go to school. I mean, case in point, look at Edward Snowden, who had only a high school degree and ended up working at the CIA making a few $100,000, and he didn't have to go to college. I think those opportunities are rising up, so I really wonder, and here's my main point, I really wonder if it's a good idea to be lessening or to be making alterations to student loans to where you shortchange the intelligence of the people who engage in these loans. If everyone could get loans, then and have them change around, then that just means that you're changing all these. I don't know. In this, I guess I'm posing a more morality question. Do you guys think it's better to change the loans around, or to hold the people accountable for the agreement that they engaged in?
That's kind of a big question. I think that one of the things that it sounded like you were kind of getting at that I agree with is as nice as it sounds to say, like, we're gonna make loans available at low interest rates so that pretty much anyone can get them. That sounds nice, but I don't that sounds nice on paper and everything. I don't think that's the solution to any sort of education crisis that we're having. And whether or not people are capable of getting the sort of education that they're going to need, considering, I guess, how our economy is going, the fact that there are so many jobs that are becoming something that robots can handle and stuff like that, that we need people who are more creative and more critical thinkers, and that is something that can certainly come from having a college education, but I don't think that making college less expensive or more affordable through loans is the answer. I think maybe this is what you were referring to, Justin. There's so many things, like you could literally have courses, MIT, Harvard, Stanford level courses online as videos that people could watch. You could have things like Khan Academy, that basically can give you a strong education for free, and just, you know, maybe where the only thing that comes into in terms of you having to pay anything is maybe taking a test that says, yes, I have actually learned enough to have like a master's or a bachelor's in biology or computer science or something like that. And so, you know, again, it's like, I guess what I'm saying is, it sounds nice to have it like we're going to have loans for everybody that they can afford. I don't think that that's the long-term solution to any sort of education problems. If you're talking, Justin, you're muted. I can't.
Yeah, I muted him. I tried to mute him temporarily just so that I could hear what you were saying, William, but now I can't take him off mute for some reason.
Okay.
Why doesn't Google Hangout let me unmute stuff? Why doesn't Google Hangout let me do stuff?
I don't know. Why did you? You should have just asked him to mute himself.
Well, you were talking. I was going to let you finish talking. Justin, do you want to try and like log out and log back in? Because I don't want to mute you. I just wanted to let William talk. Try logging out and logging back in. Okay, what were you saying, William? I heard part of what you were saying.
He's still muted, but.
Heck.
You shouldn't have muted him, champ.
I know. WTF, Mike?
Can y'all hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. I think the mute ability transferred to me. So.
Oh. Okay. Well, you mute yourself whenever you need to.
Okay. So that way, when someone's talking and stuff like that, that way it cuts out.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Sorry, my daughter is now a part of this.
It's all good.
Yeah. Give me 1 sec. I'm gonna throw her in the playpen. Hang on.
So what were we talking about?
Elizabeth Warren, I guess.
Right.
I finished my thought.
Finish your thought. I don't know, the college thing. The trade school and college thing. Yeah, I mean, the way that I view that is you can learn a lot of stuff online now, and you can basically, there are a lot of companies now where if you can, you know, develop a proof of concept, if you can show that you know how to code, or you can show that you know how to do whatever it is that you want to do, you don't really need a degree.
Yeah. A portfolio.
Yeah.
I think that's more. That needs to be more important than whether or not you have a piece of paper that says I graduated. You know, I graduated a certain school that's sort of prestigious or something like that.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, the other thing is most people have the means to produce stuff now. Also, like, I'm guessing in the past, a big issue was that people didn't have the money or the means to get a hold of technology to produce the kind of stuff that they wanted to. They needed a job to produce the kind of stuff that they wanted to. Whereas now, anyone with the internet, you know, not everyone has access to the internet and access to like a webcam and stuff like that, but anyone who has access to a phone or a webcam and the internet can pretty much produce whatever the hell they want to.
Google Hangout. I mean, and I think studies have even shown that lecture classes are not as positive as other ways of teaching. So why couldn't you do your first 2 years of undergrad where you're doing bullshit lecture classes? Why couldn't you do it online and still get the same effect?
Well, I mean, didactic teaching has its place. Like, I like to get on, sometimes when I'm not doing anything else, I like to get online and listen to like a podcast or some sort of didactic program. But ultimately, yeah, actually putting the education into practice is more useful, is more helpful to me in the long run.
I agree. And coming back to where we started, I worry about the way that we have our society set up, because we have all these different segments that are being propped up unnecessarily, and I'm wondering if that's stifling innovation through doing that. So if we provide, loans that are easy to get out of, that aren't accountable, that the situation changes so much, but we're providing not free money because you have to pay it back, but if we're providing money that's attained very easily, colleges are going to start charging at the wazoo. They've been losing funding from the federal government and from state governments over the past years with recession and everything like that. So that's why that's one reason why tuition costs are going up. Plus, also, if everyone can pay for an education through a loan program, then that further incentivizes universities to not seek efficiency.
Yeah.
So, and I see internet learning as being a helpful way to seek efficiency.
Part of the problem with government involvement in, I am not 100% libertarian. That's the easiest thing for me to identify myself with. But part of the problem, talking from a libertarian standpoint, part of the problem with government intervention in things like education and healthcare is that if you have a program like federal Pell Grants or federal loans and or Obamacare or something like that, or Medicare or something like that, if this federal program is willing to pay this amount of money for a service, then corporations or hospitals or whatever or universities are going to charge that much for that service. So, and then if people can't get access to Pell Grants or Pell or Obamacare or whatever, then that presents a problem, because then people can't afford to pay the same amount that the government can for services.
I had something supportive to say, and then I forgot that I put myself on mute. So I started talking. I was like, yeah, that's what we were talking about over at Central Market. And then I was like, oh, shit, I'm on mute. I forgot. I'm trying to help out with my muting capabilities. But yes, exactly. Medicare, people can kind of just choose what they want to be paid for, and it's up to Medicare to decide whether or not it's reasonable. But the definition of reasonable is fairly loose. Am I still muted?
No, you're not muted now.
All right, good. Anyways, yeah. So I don't know. It's a big conundrum, but I think that change happens, and a lot of what we're doing to support and stimulate and prop up parts of this society, I think that change is inevitable, and we're just kind of delaying what those changes will be. Innovation will happen because of necessity. That's not the right phrase, but it's in essence.
Yeah, that was something that I wanted to actually bring up on the show that I forgot about, is that the Elon Musk basically releasing all of Tesla's patents, I think is awesome.
Yeah. I think that's amazing too. That's been blowing up.
Elon Musk kind of like pretty much everything he seems to do. So far, at least. He seems like a pretty good guy.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything bad come out of him yet, so I'm sure someone will find something eventually. But
yeah, probably screw it up sometime. So far, he seems like a pretty decent guy.
All the interviews I've seen, and even his actions, the way that he's taking his companies, SpaceX and Tesla, show me that he will be a big part of our future, in kind of like a Bill Gates style. But Bill Gates, I feel like, is investing himself, but at the same time, and he's working on charities and things of that nature. But I think that there's more that he could be doing with progress. But Elon Musk, I think, is he's a armored suit away from being Tony Stark.
Yeah.
That's how I feel, and I kind of want him to make an armored suit and become Tony Stark. I think it's just a little ways away. We just need to work on it.
Well, the difference between Elon Musk and Bill Gates is that Elon Musk takes a bottom-up approach to things, and Bill Gates uses the top-down approach. Like Bill Gates wants to institute stuff like Common Core and mandate. I don't know exactly what his stance is on vaccines, but I know that it seems like he almost basically wants to mandate vaccines and mandate Common Core and stuff like that. And you can't mandate an all-encompassing education system for everyone. It just doesn't.
I've never heard that he does want to mandate Common Core. I've never heard that before.
Okay, well, I mean, he's like using his. The last thing I read was that he was using his connections with the government and stuff to implement Common Core through the federal government. So, I mean, that's not something I agree with. If that's not true, then I'm wrong on that account.
I'm saying wrong. I've just never heard that before.
Yeah.
Can you define Common Core for me? What is?
I mean, it's like No Child Left Behind. It's like another federal.
So it's a program. It's not
requirement. And if you go look at, if you go Google Common Core and go look at some of the questions that they ask students, they're ridiculous. Like, it makes no sense. They try to teach these weird weird ways of doing math problems, which are completely convoluted, and I guess they help students reason their way out of things, but they, I look at it and I have no idea what the heck's going on. It's I'm not horrible. I'm not the best at math, but I'm not horrible at doing mental math.
Yeah, and it does look like he does actually support it, so you were right.
So is Common Core like a Common Core set of educational values that they want people to know? Is that kind of what
it's kind of having a set of state standards, just kind of like standardized testing does, kind of a standard on how people are, how children are taught certain things. That's at least what I understand of it, how they're taught and how they're taught to understand.
I mean, it's like what you were talking about earlier, Justin. It's mandating stuff it's the federal government mandating education requirements as opposed to people working on this stuff at the state or local level.
Mm-hmm. As long as it's unbiased, I think that's a good thing. I think that basic education, and I'm assuming that he's promoting a global effort with this. Is that what?
Probably.
Okay. Well, let's just assume it, because I think Bill Gates is now thinking globally minded, which I think all of us should be. But I don't think that's a bad thing. But yeah. We were talking about Elon Musk versus Bill Gates, and I feel like Bill Gates has been leading this big, huge crusade about malaria, which is, it has killed a lot of people. Fair. That's a fair thing to talk about. But
that's bold, Justin, taking a stance.
I mean, if you want to save more lives than that combined of all world wars, be my guest. I'm not going to stop you. I think that's cool. I think that at the same time, there could be some effort made into progressing the species beyond just mere survival. I think that's the difference between Elon Musk and his efforts versus Bill Gates. Tesla creating the electric car, making it commonplace, giving out patents, creating space shuttles that, our space shuttle program was really outdated, and you had maybe a few companies, but it was really insular, and now SpaceX getting involved, and there's more space companies getting together, and Elon Musk was a part of the group that was talking about mining asteroids. We need to get it on the ball. We need to start getting out to space. We need to set up some sort of asteroid protection program, and I think that stuff is a big deal. Malaria is a big deal. I can't say that it's not, and I don't want to come off as insensitive, because if I had malaria or if my daughter had malaria, I'd be pissed.
Keep in mind, Justin, that we are three white guys talking on Google Hangouts in probably the most developed nation in the world. There's a huge gap between
us and other people
between
having
us
malaria.
and people in Africa who have to deal with malaria and other infectious diseases,
Right.
and not having any food.
So I'm gonna claim bias on this. So if anyone is looking this up in the future when I'm running for some sort of like Senate campaign or something like that, because
Justin likes malaria.
Justin is pro malaria, dude. No, I don't like malaria. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that's a good thing to pour resources into. I think that we can that Elon Musk's is more diversified, which there's something to be said about that. And I think that Bill Gates is really targeted on malaria, among other things. But
I do think, though, that you kind of have to look at it like the fact that they're I don't know how old Elon Musk is, but they're kind of at different points in their career. Bill Gates kind of had to build up his empire, build up his fortune and stuff. And he's kind of at the point where it's like, what are you going to do with it? Elon Musk is still kind of at the point where he's innovating, he's building new products, he's trying to change the world the same way maybe Bill Gates did with Windows and computing and stuff like that. So maybe Elon Musk in 30 years will have a huge fortune that he's spending to wipe out AIDS or something like that.
Well, considering how much wealth the United States has, I'm pretty sure there's money to go around to help with, vaccines, malaria, and mining asteroids in
They need
space.
to build more tanks that the Army specifically has told us they do not need. That's where money needs.
Yeah, that's a place where we don't need to funnel money, is into defense.
yeah,
It's not what the Congress decided.
I know, well, that's why Congress is completely out of touch with America and has like a 9% approval rating.
yeah, which is even more crazy. But the people who Congress is. It's surprising to me that Congress has such a low rating, but I heard something the other day that the same people are being re-voted in. Like, no one's making an effort to make any sort of changes within Congress. At least
the opinion that I always hear thrown around is most people go, everyone in Congress is bad except for Mikey. So I'll keep voting him or her in. But it's all the other people that make me disapprove.
Well, on that note, we can discuss Eric Cantor getting blown out of his primary election, which is awesome.
So I don't know that much about this, so I'll let you take it.
Everyone that I've talked to don't know much about this, even though it's a really big deal.
I'm sure it is. I was watching House of Cards, though, so I'm only aware of fictional Congress, not actual Congress.
Okay, well, anyways, I don't know all about it because Eric Cantor seems like a horrible politician, but basically he is the House Majority Leader, so he's second in command in the House of Representatives, and he lost his seat, or I guess he lost his primary election to a guy, David Bratt, I think is his name, who is kind of the, very much a grassroots politician. He's also very anti-immigration, from what I understand, which is something that I can't support. Like, I like the fact that he beat Eric Cantor, but I can't support him if he's super anti-immigration.
Dave Bratt is that what you're saying?
His last name's Bratt. I don't remember his first name.
It is. I looked it up here. But so David Bratt is anti-immigration. Is that what you're saying?
I believe so. I believe that the reason that he blew out Eric Cantor so badly, even though Eric Cantor was outspending him like 26-1 or something insane like that, is that he was running on a platform that was very much like anti-big money, Washington pouring, and also very. It sounds like very anti-immigration, very anti-amnesty, which I think is a stupid word to throw around. It drives me crazy that people throw around that word amnesty.
if I knew what state he was in, it would probably make a bigger deal. But I bet you he's probably not in a border state.
I mean, well,
Virginia.
Yeah, I mean, like, the thing is, Eric Cantor I think he got accused of being, quote, pro-amnesty by this guy, and again, I think that throwing around the word amnesty is like a red herring. It's not. It's a misnomer, and people just throw that around because they're, I don't know, closet racists. I don't know exactly why.
Well, we've always had immigration, and that's just not going to change. It's going to provide sometimes a lot of cheaper labor.
Yeah, but when we have when our country is in such massive turmoil, like there's ridiculous amount of unemployment, regardless of what the Obama administration reports, because they cut out people who have stopped looking for work after like 6 months or a year or whatever. When we have ridiculous amounts of unemployment and our country's just in pretty big shambles overall, then it's really easy to use immigrants as a scapegoat.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's like Mo on The Simpsons says, I knew it was the immigrants. Even before when we were talking about the Bears, I knew it was the immigrants.
Good old Simpsons.
Mm-hmm.
So, do we know what this new guy? What's his last name? Ball or no? Brett. Do we know what his stance is? Is it just to say no to immigrants, or is it just no to amnesty?
I can't actually find what if they don't have they have like all of his political positions except for immigration on here.
So
really?
Rand Paul released an email, I think in the last week, that was kind of, I think, touching on. I think he was touching on. Yeah. Okay. David Bratt webpage says, when addressing the issue of immigration, we must start by securing our border. So that is something that I'm not I don't disagree with. Like, I think that that because of America's horrible failed foreign policies, as far as dating back as far back as the 50s, where we're overthrowing governments and empire building overseas, there are probably people in the world who want to do harm to America. So I don't have a problem with there being some border security, but at the same time, I think that border security is
overrated,
overstated. Like, we don't need to build a fence and stuff like that. Like, if we have, border patrol guards who are probably well funded but not militarized, then that would probably be a good start.
That is bad. Like, I'm looking at his political positions. Like, half of them are really good and half of them are god awful.
Yeah, that's the problem.
In terms of what I agree with, I guess I should say. Kind of sad.
That's a problem, is that we have these new people who are winning on basically scapegoat issues, where it's like, yeah, they have some good ideas, but they also have some really horrible ideas.
Yeah.
It's the same old thing every time, though. I mean, like you said, I think that that working on border control is important, but at the same time, you're right. Building a wall. Actually, do you guys remember what happened with the Boeing wall that was going to be built?
Nope.
What happened?
So they tried to put it through Brownsville and a few other areas, but Boeing gave the government one bid to do it, and they blew through all of the money and asked for more money than they originally asked for. So they asked for X number of dollars, and when they ran out of X number of dollars, they asked the government. Then this is still, I think, George Bush. They asked for more money. They asked for more money than they originally asked for, so X plus afterwards to finish it. And it's just like,
what are we doing here? Do you guys watch Game of Thrones at all?
Yeah.
No. So are we building the North Wall here? I mean, does that seem like a really viable idea?
Yeah.
I mean, the problem is America is massive. Like, I don't think you can build walls in America. It's just too freaking big.
Well, it's not cost effective, and we have such an incredible drone program. I mean, their targeting is not the best, but I mean, why are we building walls? You know, no tunnel can last so long that it's going to escape detection from a drone. Why don't we? I mean, I'm not sure what the current efforts are, but I'm just surprised that we didn't think of something a little smarter, a little more money efficient, and now yada yada yada, we have a $17 trillion debt. I mean, we're building walls that don't do anything, that cut through the land we already have instead of protecting borders. And then you can build a tunnel underneath the wall at any point in time. So, I don't know. It's just mind-numbingly depressing at how this country spends money and what we focus on when we elect people. And it's like immigration stuff, but then, you know, no one comes up with any credible ideas to satiate the problem. It's just a talking point.
Stop voting incumbents into office. Like, give someone else a chance. There needs to be term limits.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need a bunch of crazy old people who are unwilling to pivot and recognize that the times are changing,
And
staying in office.
This Dave Bragg guy does support term limits, but he also supports a lot of other terrible stuff.
Well, what is the crazy stuff he supports so that we can get people against him or get him to change his views?
So some of the good things were he's very much against the NSA indiscriminate collection of data. He does support term limits. He is against Common Core and No Child Left Behind. He also sounds like he is very much against gay marriage and abortion and gambling.
He is against those things.
Yeah,
like we need to protect the rights of the unborn and the sanctity of marriage, and I will oppose any governmental intrusion upon the conscience of people of faith, which doesn't sound great to me.
So it sounds like he's a really shitty libertarian, right?
Yeah.
He's a really shitty libertarian. It's libertarian for what he cares about most, but then when it comes to other things,
he's just too
That's
far.
kind of what this sounds like from what I'm reading here.
He's just too far right. Like, he has too much. He's too I don't know, staunch and dated on social issues.
Yeah, that's honestly reading this that. You know, he's also very much against, it sounds like, any sort of health care that's not totally free market or social programs that aren't free market, which, you know, I'm kind of, like I said, when I was a libertarian, that was maybe more where I was. I'm kind of moving away from that, you know. But those, you know, I mean, it sounds like for certain things that this Dave Bragg guy sounds good, but especially when it comes to social issues, it sounds like he's just totally Republican on everything. Exactly what any other Republican candidate you would probably support.
Well, he might. And so were these the primaries, or was this the general election?
Primary.
Okay.
I would assume that in a general election, a more sane Democratic candidate would be able to beat him.
Yes, and he may swing a lot more left too when that election comes around, because those factors, especially even for Virginia, I mean, the anti-gay marriage and being from a background from what she's claiming or from what the media is casting him as is, you know, being a libertarian and talking about gay marriage, whether pro or con, is just inconsequential. It shouldn't matter.
Well, I guess it's important to matter. I don't think he actually claims he's a libertarian. I just think it sounds like some of his views lean more that way. Mm-hmm. But I mean, he is, you know, he beat Cantor in the Republican primary, and he is running.
Probably
in the general.
He would probably be more accurately described as like a Ron Paul Republican.
So is Ron Paul even holding? I don't think he's holding an office right now, is he?
No, but he's running his like campaign for liberty and supporting his son Rand Paul and doing like super PAC stuff.
Yeah, Rand Paul has been. I was very hopeful about Rand Paul, and then now I feel like I don't know. I was just so impressed when he spoke out about the drone strikes, and it got very little. It didn't get as much press coverage as I had hoped it would, and I was hoping that he'd be really cut from his father's cloth. But I don't know. As time has gone on, I don't know. I'm just becoming disenchanted with
he's like
Rand Paul.
Kind of too all over the place. Like half the time he stuff that would kind of be more libertarian, and then the other half of the time exactly what again, like what you would expect from any other mainstream Republican candidate.
Well, again, I think
I don't feel like he's say what you will about Ron Paul, I feel like he was generally fairly consistent in terms of pretty much any political position he was taking. And I don't think it's the same way. Whether you agree with what Ron Paul's political positions generally were, I would say he was fairly consistent on the whole, and I don't think it's done the same way.
Yeah, it's the opportunism again. Like, I think Rand Paul is probably more principled than Ted Cruz, but still he's like an opportunist.
Rand Paul does, you think?
Yeah. Too much of an opportunist.
I wonder if it's just the general placating that they have to go through, the politics game of appealing to enough people to keep getting voted in, and sometimes you've got to eat a little, or I don't know, spout a little bullshit in order to just keep that power.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't like hearing stuff like when with the Bo Bergdahl case when they released some Guantanamo Bay detainees, and Rand Paul is like, well, we're releasing them, but they've got drones with their names on it. Like,
did he say that?
Yes. Like, the people in Guantanamo haven't been charged with anything. They've been held up to this point indefinitely and haven't been charged with anything. Yeah, maybe they've done bad stuff, but we haven't put them through a trial, so you can't threaten them live.
In addition, not only are we holding them there, but we're paying for all that stuff too, which
and we're torturing them. We're force feeding them when they go on hunger strikes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's the point? I get down to the end of the day. Are we going to get information from them at this point? For people who have been there for a few years, what new information do they need to know? And if we're holding them, I mean, they should go through trial. They should do something, but just to keep holding them without indefinitely just seems kind of ridiculous, and just the general frivolous spending and control that's not necessary.
Part of the problem is ridiculous, like you're saying, but it's also, I think, more just incredibly horrible. Like, put aside the cost of it, like financially, it's terrible that we as one of the leading nations of the country can grab people and hold them indefinitely with no trial whatsoever. And then if anything,
one of the leading nations in the world.
Yeah, once anyone starts talking about maybe we should put them on trial, maybe we should release them, maybe we should try them in civilian courts or something like that. You have not Republicans. You have political politicians like John McCain and stuff like that. Like, this is the worst possible thing we can do. Like, trying them in a court in New York would be awful. We just need to hold them continuously.
Well, I mean, why would that be awful? I don't understand why having it in Guantanamo or trying them is such a problem. Are they worried about escape? Do they really have to worry about that?
I think they're worried about the fact that we might put some of these guys on trial and realize we've been holding them indefinitely for no good reason.
Yeah, it would be a PR nightmare, and also part of the problem is that last I checked, there are no countries in the world that want these people. So
that's
they haven't been tried with any crime, but if there's nowhere to put them, that is I understand that's a logistics problem, but they are human beings who haven't been tried with anything.
Another thing that they're probably worried about in terms of trying them is not just, they might be people who we have a lot of evidence that they have done things that deserve them to be in prison. But if you start bringing to light a lot of some of the stuff that has probably been going on in Guantanamo, and you start bringing that out into open court, that's probably really going to make us look bad as a country. Mm-hmm. And I think all of these things are reasons for them to go, no, let's just keep them bounced away and not even worry. And it's awful that we treat anyone, even if they're terrorists, that we're treating them this way.
I was going to say, I'm going to come off as a really shitty human being on this podcast because I'm talking about costs when it comes to, like, illegally holding people in Guantanamo Bay, and, like, I'm appearing as if I'm anti-malaria or pro-malaria or something like that. No. I totally get it. Yes, these are people, too. We can't hold them like that. But those are very good points about that we have nowhere to send them, and it'll also be a PR nightmare. So I think the situation is, just basically don't say anything about it and just ignore it, kind of, which is what the Obama presidency has been about. It's like, well, you care about this issue? Well, we're not going to talk about it. We're not going to give you any answer. We're going to let it fade out and something else fade into your perception.
Yeah. There was something I was reading or watching something where Obama was giving a speech and somebody in, like, the audience asked a question or yelled out something about Guantanamo and how he had said he was going to shut it down and he still has not done anything. And his response was basically like, it's good you're still asking those questions. And then he just went ahead and talked about something else entirely different. And like while they were kicking this person out for entering, he was like, it's good. No, don't boo this person for asking questions like that. And then he talked about whatever he had actually come there to talk about and totally ignored anything about Guantanamo.
Well, I mean, I think one thing that we could not do is, while we're holding these people indefinitely without trial, if they decide to go on a hunger strike, we don't have to forcibly feed them through an NG tube, basically gavaging human beings.
That one goes through the nose into their stomach? Or that?
Yeah.
Or we could put them on. Hear me out. We could put them on a life raft, give them plenty of water, plenty of food, and then let the ocean be their judge. Just push them out to the Atlantic, and let justice be served.
If we don't have a country that'll take them, we need to get a new Australia to just send all of our criminals to.
Again, these people aren't necessarily criminals.
Yeah, and I'm kidding.
I am too.
Future viewers, I'm totally kidding.
That's the only thing you can do with something that's such a gross humanitarian nightmare, is unfortunately joke about it.
Yeah, I mean, besides complain about it and, try to make your voice heard, but they, out of the scale of problems that we have to deal with as a country, and even what our politicians have to deal with, I don't know. I was going to say those assholes in Guantanamo Bay, probably very low on the totem pole. I don't know why they would be in Guantanamo Bay, though, without some reasonable suspicion. I don't know. That evidence hasn't been provided to me. I just feel like if there was someone of interest or of, like, real value, that some country would have spoken up or done something. I don't know.
But
maybe that's just a stupid idea.
I mean, the problem is we just don't know. Like, there's no transparency.
Mm-hmm.
There's no trial. There's no transparency.
It was one thing if we had put them on trial and found them guilty with evidence where it's like, yes, this guy has done some terrible stuff. But it's another thing to go like, yeah, they're a person of interest. It might be totally legitimate to be concerned about this person, but we basically just threw them in a prison and just didn't do any sort of due process or anything like that. And that's again, however obvious it might be to the military or intelligence agencies or whoever getting these are people to look out for. The truth of the matter is we still haven't done anything to kind of prove it where we can go, here is the evidence for why we need this guy, out, and so
to bring it back around to immigrants, this is also something. This isn't confined to Guantanamo Bay. This is something that we are doing in America right now. People who have questionable legal status in this country are being put into tent cities, the euphemistic term tent cities for basically Joe Arpaio having people put into the modern day equivalent of World War II Japanese internment camps. We're doing this in America right now on American soil.
With people who we just haven't, who are illegal immigrants, but I'm surprised we're not deporting them. What's the point of holding them there?
Well, they have questionable legal status. They're not illegal. They probably came. There are people who came in either legally or came in like through a visa or something, and their visa expired or something along those lines. And ICE, the immigration, I don't know what's it for, immigration customs enforcement or whatever, they go round these people up and stick them in prisons or stick them in detainment centers.
Which seems pretty horrid because it's not necessarily people who they know are illegal. It's people of questionable status. If it's of questionable status, then, I mean, don't they deserve to be treated better, or at least just to say, hey, we need to know about your whereabouts, etc., but you can still engage in society, or here's a temporary, I don't know. It'd be nice if that idea got pushed through, but I mean,
I would imagine they're probably worried about, once they start going like, hey, we're going to keep an eye on you, but you can still participate in society, that person might just kind of
disappear.
Yeah, find somewhere else, a couple towns over to live in, and go under a different name or something.
I mean, part of the problem too is that there's probably just
massive numbers of them.
A massive number of people that they have to, keep tabs on in some way or another. Like, it's probably just an issue of resources, unfortunately. But it's also very much an issue with immigration reform. Like, there are people here who work and provide, and are productive members of society and are still treated like garbage.
It's a big shame, and that's why I think it's probably so upsetting that there's so much lip service paid to immigration reform, and people like Brat getting elected based off of certain positions. I mean, it makes no sense to just keep kicking the can down the road, but every time we have an election, it's something that we complain about. I mean, I know it's an important deal, but I don't know.
Well, the problem is that there is some component of scapegoatism and racism involved. Like, people don't want to talk about it, but there are people who are just, I'm pretty sure, just racist or want to blame immigrants for all the problems in the country, whether they have anything to do with it or not.
Do you guys think I mean, considering the demographics that are playing out in our country with a rising Hispanic population, don't y'all think that maybe that immigration reform, thinking about it right now, it makes me think that immigration reform may not be that far away at this point, considering that numbers of Hispanics are increasing. Not everyone's going to want to stomach this issue for too long, and I think it'll probably be very similar to maybe the whole marijuana legalization.
I mean, the other thing is as more Hispanics get mobilized, then it'll probably become a bigger issue. Like, there's going to be a point where, like, if the Republican Party especially, but the major parties in general, don't fix their stances on, I don't know how to word it. Unfortunately, I'm not media trained. Don't fix their stances on, multicultural issues, I don't know how to word it, then
I mean, if you
then
like,
these major, then like especially the Republican Party are going to go the way of the dodo bird. Like there's going to be Hispanic people who are going to vote against the Republican Party because the Republican Party is so hate-filled right now.
Is there a heavy Hispanic population in the Republican Party right now? I'm trying to think about.
they definitely, or at least I would say, I don't know much about that, I guess, specifically, but it does seem to be one of those things where they are trying to really court Hispanics who support a lot of and kind of put them at the forefront. Like, here's the Hispanic face of the Republican Party to be that, I guess, try to retain Hispanic voters. But, I mean, one of the things that you always hear about is Texas has a very strong growing Hispanic population, and Texas has been for so long like a diehard Republican state, and it's going more towards a blue state. And I think it's totally just because because you have so many younger people getting to the age to vote, and you have older people younger people tend to be Democratic and older people tend to be Republican. And, you also have like a growing population that the Republican Party, for the most part, is kind of alienated. And so, I mean, the Republican Party is really behind on issues like gay marriage, immigration reform, things like marijuana legalization, and that's really going to be hurting them if they don't start changing, just like Champ said.
Guys, I gotta bail.
I did get to the point where I need to bail too here. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've more or less reached the end of our discussion for this evening.
Okay.
Well, I enjoyed the invite. I'm glad I'm here, and next time I'll be less distracted and more well researched before I get here. Cool.
All right.
Less pro malaria, right?
Pro malaria and rafts with plenty of water and food for our Guantanamo residents.
All right. Cool.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
Well, just kidding. But yeah, please let me know when you guys are in the future. I'd love to join and be a part of it and be more research before I hop in. Cool.
Yeah.
Yep. It was nice meeting you, Justin.
Yeah, likewise.
It was meme time. They shared meme times. They talked about the meantime, but they forgot about the meantime.